Eastern PA Weather 30 meteorologist Bobby Martich here with your outlook for September 22nd, 2017. Fall will officially arrive this afternoon after 4 p.m. and we'll have very summer-like temperatures coming in that will not be conducive of what you would expect for the autumn season. But we're going to have that going through probably early next week. I'll show you that in a second. As we get into today, we're expecting much of the same what we had yesterday. Mix of clouds and sun, very warm. Temperatures are probably going to be running about 10 degrees above average of what they should be this time of year today, but it is going to get worse than that, or higher than that, I should say, depending on your perspective. This is what is left of Jose. It is just kind of sitting here and drifting just southeast of Cape Cod. It's going to actually move, going to retrograde a little bit to the southwest and weaken as it does so. Maybe do a little loop out here, but it's going to continue to weaken, and then finally this is going to pull away. But this has done its damage already. We expected earlier in the week when we were talking about the possibilities of Maria coming up the coast here, that maybe this weakens faster and it doesn't hang around like it has and like what it's continued to do or expected to do in the next 48 hours. So it does look like that weakness is going to be between those two ridges we explained in previous videos. I'm not going to go through all those possibilities today. I'm going to keep the video a little bit shorter today because we're about 90% sure that this does not affect the East Coast. The 10% chance will be a brush impact to maybe coastal North Carolina here. We're going to keep that alive just for that reason. But as far as our area here, we're pretty close to zero chance for a hit here. Probably just comes up here, stays far enough offshore, maybe close enough to get fringe impacts out the Outer Banks here, but then heading out to the northeast. And we're going to move that ahead here so you can see what that looks like. See that weakness is still here with, this is going all the way into Sunday evening. The weakness is still there before it finally dissipates early Monday morning, but by that time the damage is already done as far as that weakness being created between the two ridges. And here comes Maria, and it's going to move up the coastline, maybe drawn back northwestward a little bit. So we're going to, again, we're going to watch the Outer Banks of North Carolina for some possible fringe impacts, and we will also have rip currents for this being so close. But again, fringe impacts are still up in the air. We're still probably about 90% against that idea too, but this will eventually move east or northeast as this trough comes in and picks it up. So that's what the idea looks like. We're going to remain dry all the way through at least next Thursday. Maybe have a late day shower depending on the speed of this front coming in. Not much moisture projected to be with it. Just to give you an idea where Maria is currently, and it's approaching the Turks and Caicos Islands, so that will be the next on the list for maybe not a direct impact, but at least the eye wall. As this continues up in this direction like this, it's going to start to curve a little bit because we have an upper level low in the southeastern United States that's going to be kind of over the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and that is going to drive this thing going into that image here. Here's Maria coming up just east of the Bahamas where I just showed you there. You can't see it here because this is a surface map, but there is an upper level low that's sitting right out here. And the flow around this upper level low is more south-southwesterly. So this is going to turn once it gets a little bit further, it's going to start turning out like this and start coming northward and then maybe northeastward a little bit, and it might get sucked back into the coast a little bit before it starts going back out like this. So that's the idea right now with Maria of what it should do. Again, just a rip current threat right now. We're not going to take our eyes off of this, but right now it looks like largely this remains offshore. I'll just put this in motion so you can see. It does exactly what I just drew there. It kind of goes northeast a little bit, then more north again. Where's it at? Wait for it. There it is. Also slows down quite a bit because that ridge does start eventually build over the top by this point. It's going to draw it back to the northwest a little bit, and then it heads back out to the east. It might end up being a little bit closer than that is depicting there, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. But the spaghetti plots, which are the Euro ensembles, are all unanimous at keeping this offshore. There's a few individual clusters that are showing something impacting a little bit closer to the North Carolina coastline, but we're not really worried about that right now. If something changes, we'll let you know, of course, but it does not look like the likely solution. Likely is that it remains offshore, heads up like this, and then heads out to the northeast and away from our region. That's probably the 90% chance that it does that. So we're not looking at we're not looking at a direct impact along the eastern seaboard. If there was an impact, it would probably just be, again, brush impacts along the coastal regions of the Outer Banks of North Carolina is the most likely at this point. Okay, everywhere else probably not, just rip currents. This is we're looking at a 2 meter temperature anomaly. So this is looking at your high temperatures on each day. This is looking at Saturday afternoon, and this is a departure for normal. So these reds that are over our region right here are generally 10 degrees above average. This is in Fahrenheit, okay? We're going to have some heat building up to our north. The ridge is building up to our north, and it's going to eventually sink south. This is the ridge. It's going to start moving southward, so those temperatures are going to go up after we get past Saturday. And by the time we get to Sunday, I'll move this ahead for you. By the time we get to Sunday, you can see that starting to build and then pushing south a little bit. So we get a little bit warmer here on Sunday, maybe approaching 90 in Philadelphia on Sunday. And then when we get to Monday, you might have some areas that even in the interior are going to hit 90, like maybe up here, places like Newark and Allentown, Harrisburg, Reading, and Philadelphia should be hitting 90 or come close to it here on Monday. That is not going to go anywhere. That ridge is going to continue to stay in place. And this is a look at Tuesday. Same idea here, close to 90 degrees in a lot of locations. By Wednesday, we take a slight step back, but not a real big deal. It's going to depend on, in part, what happens with Maria, where it is. It might have some clouds along the shore points, maybe. I'm not really going to bank on that yet, but it does look like we're going to take a slight step back in temperatures. And once we get to the end of the period, we're going to be doing the opposite of what we are now. There's a trough coming in here toward the latter part of next week here, probably Thursday into Friday, and then next weekend it starts to cool down again. This is a look at next Saturday, the opposite of what we're doing now. So instead of above normal temperatures, we're talking about below normal, and we should go back into the 60s for highs. So it's going to be quite a change. I'm not sure exactly how long this lasts yet. We'll update that today in the long-range outlook expected later this morning. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is your outlook for September 22nd, 2017. Have a great Friday.